So I am by no means a fantasy fan. I do not typically like the fantasy genre. I cannot stand Harry Potter or Chronicles of Narnia. I do understand why other people like it, but it is just not for me. I tend to prefer movies that are more on the rated R, violent, hyper-realistic side. Movies like Children of Men, No Country for Old Men, Michael Mann's Heat. Those are the kind of films that I typically enjoy. So Lord of the Rings does not fit into that genre of hyperrealism, but the reason why I enjoy it is that the action scenes and the swashbuckling in the series is essentially the best I've ever seen in any movie or any movie series. Now, Fellowship of the Ring is the first movie in the series, and it starts off with a bang. And what do I mean by a bang?
One by one, free lands of Middle-earth fell to the power of the ring. But there were some who resisted. A last alliance of men and elves marched against the armies of Mordor, and on the slopes of Mount Doom, they fought for the freedom of Middle-earth.
So immediately out of the gate, this movie kicks ass, and that's before we've even seen the villain.
Victory was near. But the power of the ring could not be undone. It was in this moment, when all hope had faded, that Isildur, son of the king, took up his father's sword.
So that is the beginning of the Lord of the Rings film franchise, and it's not a bad way to start. And skipping a whole bunch of plot points and a whole bunch of action scenes, the whole point of the movie is for the Ring of Power to be taken to Mount Doom, which is on the other side of the world, and be thrown into a volcano to destroy the ring and the evil spirit Sauron, who essentially can take over the world even though he's a ghost. So skipping a whole bunch of stuff and not giving a crap about fantasy, our band of heroes essentially have to battle all kinds of monsters. And what do I mean by monsters is... So yeah, it's a pretty scary monster, and
I am a servant of the secret fire, wielder of the flame of Arnor. The dark fire will not avail you, flame of Ungund! Go back to the shadow. You shall not pass!
Legolas, get them out.
Give them a moment, for pity's sake.
By nightfall, these hills will be swarming with orcs. We must reach the woods of Lothlorien. Come, Boromir, Legolas, Gimli, get them out.
On your feet, sir.
Frodo? Frodo!
So this is the midway point of the movie, and Gandalf just died. And Gandalf is the Obi-Wan Kenobi figure in the movie, so it's pretty sad when he dies, and this is just the middle of the first film, so already the stakes are very high, and, you know, our band of misfits continue the journey, and Gandalf's chief rival, which was a different wizard, Gandalf is a wizard, and this other dude is a wizard, and the other dude is evil, and he builds up an army to kill the heroes, because he knows that the heroes are trying to destroy the ring, and this evil guy wants the ring, because the ring is the ultimate power, essentially. So, the beginning of the movie is awesome, and the middle of the movie is awesome, and the movie ends with essentially one of the best deaths in film ever. Yeah, so Fellowship of the Ring is pretty good. It's pretty awesome, and it ends very well. So the next film in the franchise is The Two Towers, and the Fellowship of the Ring started off with a very impressive action scene, and so going to Two Towers, you would wonder, well, how are they going to top that? And, you know, can they top that as far as how do you have an interesting beginning to a movie?
Fly, you fools!
So the Two Towers starts with a flashback where we learn that Gandalf does not die, and he in fact survives and gets upgraded to a super A-class wizard and continues the good fight. So that's good news when you start off in the Two Towers, because it's kind of sad that Gandalf gets killed so early in the adventure, and now you realize that no, he didn't die, he's actually continuing the good fight. So skipping a whole bunch of stuff, the plot to Two Towers is essentially about man being genocided by the evil wizard's newly formed army, and the King of Rohan Theoden, along with the heroes, the elf, the ranger, and the dwarf, the movie ends with a fight at this place called Helm's Deep, and it's essentially an Alamo scenario where they're horribly outnumbered and they need to stand and fight. And this sequence is a very good build. It is very tense. It's a very good sequence. And this is essentially the end of that sequence that I'm about to show. So that's possibly the coolest thing I've ever seen in a movie, that shot of the horses going down the ramp, and oh yeah, Gandalf shows up. So thus concludes Two Towers, and now we enter the third and final film, Return of the King. Now, I skipped a whole bunch of stuff from the Two Towers, but go watch that movie, and also go watch all of these movies if you haven't seen them, because trust me, I'm showing very little, even though this review is taking forever. Return of the King starts at Minas Tirith with Gandalf. So Gandalf is separated from the other heroes that are back in the Helm's Deep area, and Minas Tirith is a white city that basically is right next door to Mount Doom. So it is the end of the Hobbit's journey, and it is the end of this final battle against this evil Dark Lord, because it literally is... The fights have moved all the way to the last stronghold of humanity, the last human city, essentially. So Gandalf is at Minas Tirith. He sees that these armies are coming, and he has to warn the other heroes and, you know, the people back at Rohan, the horse masters who just won at Helm's Deep. It starts with them having to signal them for help, but it's the medieval times, so how do you communicate across hundreds of miles very quickly, you know, when it's the olden days?
Hope is kindled.
Yeah, the helicopter shots are beautiful in this movie, but anyway, the signal fire works, and our heroes then depart for Minas Tirith, and, you know, the hobbits are doing their thing. They're, like, battling a giant spider and all sorts of mayhem on their side, which I'm not even showing, actually, for this review because I don't have time. But, back at Minas Tirith, the shit is starting to hit the fan.
Second level! Get the women and children out! Get them out! Retreat! Come on, move! Move into the city. Kill all in your path.
So that fight continues for a while, and the whole sequence as a whole continues to escalate, and when I say escalate, I am not kidding.
Go back to the abyss! Fall into the nothingness that awaits you and your master.
Do you not know death when you see it, old man? This is my power. You have failed.
So finally, backup has arrived, and that backup is Theoden. Now, Theoden is the king of Rohan, who we meet in Two Towers, and he's a little bit of a jerk in the Two Towers, but by the time the end of Return of the King happens, Theoden has become a really cool character and a very, very good man in this movie. And this movie is full of evil people, and it's full of bad men and people who make bad decisions. And Theoden essentially really sucks it up and really gets the job done like a real champ.
Hey, man! Take your area down the left flank! Gamling, follow the King's banner down the center. Grimmauld, take your company right after you pass the wall. Forth, and fear no darkness! Arise! Arise, riders of Theoden! Spears shall be shaken! Shields shall be splintered! A sword day! A red day! And the sun rises!
Whatever happens, stay with me. I'll look after you.
Right now! Right now! Right! Right for ruin and the world's ending! Dead! Dead! All hailing us!
So after all this horrible stuff that's been going on at Minas Tirith, you finally feel a breath of relief. You're like, oh, finally, the humans are starting to do a good job. And then this happens without any time to, relax.
Reform the line! Reform the line!
So I'm not going to spoil, like the actual ending of this fight scene, or what even is happening with the hobbits, which that is also incredibly cool, and lots of scary monsters on that side of the story as well. But yeah, I mean, I literally showed maybe a quarter of the action scenes, and then within those action scenes I showed under a third of them. So really, this is just scratching the surface at the 12 hours of, Lord of the Rings extended cuts you could be watching. And these movies are full of, really cool Conan the Barbarian, Braveheart kind of moments where things are just getting their heads cut off, and, people are really getting jacked in this movie. So I am planning on doing a more extensive review of all three of these films and, actually break down the story structure. But this is essentially a really shallow review just for the action junkies who, I agree that fantasy is lame, but seriously, check out Lord of the Rings, and I think you'll most likely think it's awesome.